Well, I think everybody's running a little late. We're gonna go ahead and get started.
To me about
Because I know we've got another meeting behind this one. We've got quite a bit to discuss today. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let the record reflect that the Facilities and Safety Committee meeting was posted as required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. And the first item of business is going to be Mr. Tapia with an update of the ESSER funded project.
We need to do them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any public comments or agenda topics?
There are no public comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Then, Mr. Tapia, would you lead us in the update of the ESSER funded project, please?
Thank you, Mr. Howard, Dr. Mayola, members of the committee. Thank you for being here. The first item we're going to talk about are the ESSER funded projects. And the quick update on the Coakley, Long, and Wilson Elementary HVAC upgrade with central air heating. We did get the contracts executed, bonds and insurances came in. We've already scheduled construction progress meeting and work has started. At Long, 3 new air units are going to require some structural support to be done before the new units will be sitting. They already completed 2 of those. And then the actual units won't be in until November because they're big, pretty good sized units. And then 3 will be removed. The existing will be removed during spring break. They're trying to do that work while the kids are not here. Then they'll cap them and they'll wait till the units come in. At Wilson Elementary, we thought they were going to come spring break, but we've got notice that they won't be in until April. So I'll give you an update at the next meeting. The next ESSER funded project is a central plant upgrade at Harlingen High School, also with central air heating, Ethos Engineering. This one, the contracts have been executed. We've had a pre-construction meeting, and so the contractor is just working to put some bills together so to get them approved and get ordered. Most of this work is going to be done during the summer. It's going to take about 8 weeks for the pumps to come in, the new pumps, and they'll do any infrastructure work in the meantime. If there are no questions, we'll move on to the TRE projects. The first TRE project is Zavala Elementary. Verloc builders continue to work there, and you can see there from the photos. The inside's all been demoed out, the new plumbing has been put in, concrete's been filled in over the trenches, and they've got the new sewer lines out to the new grease traps located outside the facility. They're pouring concrete in one of the mechanical rooms to level the floor because there was a big steep drop there. And the freezer cooler units did come in, placed them on the new slab we did. And then on the inside you can see with the new door is where the new freezer cooler is. You enter, it's a cooler, and you keep going in and you get into the freezer. So they make quite a bit of progress there. Moving on to the school health professions, we got some automatic gates that we're bidding out on page 10. And basically at the school health professions on the Phoenix side, on the north side, on the students and I guess there's some teacher parking there too. We're putting in some new rolling automatic gates on the entry to the bus drive. It is recessed in. And then there will be an entry and exit on the parking lot side in the middle. And then on the bus exit, there'll be an exit area. And then also you can come in to access the gym or the central plant. Those 3 gates, initially we thought was going to be not too expensive, but when you look at all the wiring system with all the electrical power required, the card swipe system, intercom system to be able to call into the front office, and a little camera to see who it is. We have a budget of about $100,000. We're bidding it out. We're hoping it comes in at a good price, but we'll find out. The bids come in tomorrow actually, and we'll rank them. And if it's something favorable that we receive that we rank out, we'll have something on your board agenda for approval.
So just so I'm clear, the gates are, I know you don't have a point of
You can see that's the entry to the bus.
All right.
And it's recessed in, that way a fire truck can park there without blocking the street. While they open the gate, there'll be a knock spot so they can have access to a key. And then, but when it's not an emergency, the buses just come in here, they have a card swipe, they come in, and they come out. This is the teacher and student parking lot.
That's another new
This will be another card swipe, and you can come in here, and you can go out. Here you can come in, or the buses also go out. So those are the 3 areas that we're targeting. Right now they're manual gates, so they just have to leave them open because for people to be just running back back and forth opening gates for people, it's just not feasible, so they just stay open, so we don't really have a secure site.
When do you anticipate this will be finished? I'm sorry.
If we award it by summer, it'll be done by summer.
So when school starts in the fall, we'll be up and going?
Yes.
Great.
Hopefully sooner if we can get it all the specialized equipment. Some of the stuff has electronics and, could take some time to get in, but if we can get them quicker, then we can finish it a lot sooner. It all depends how soon we can get the materials.
Yeah, is that type of stuff that's on back order like everything else?
Ken, you're having a problem getting?
Yeah, I mean, all the electronic stuff, and you're ordering those types of card swipes and
Looking at 6
automated
months or
systems.
what?
I don't know about 6 months, but you're probably talking 8 to 12 weeks.
Next, project we're doing is we're also doing some other security fencing at Kano Academy, Jefferson, and Treasure Hills, in areas where we have 6-foot wood privacy fences. On the backside where you have the 2x4s, you can climb that fence pretty easily because it's just bare wooden top, it's a smooth surface. So we're planning to replace them with 8-foot chain link fence with a slat system that goes into the chain link, kind of like what we have at our tennis courts.
So it'll be like a privacy.
It'll be a privacy, it's got 75 to 80% coverage, and just a little slits because you want air to go through, so you don't have a lot of air pressure, wind load on your fence. We've got 2 quotes, Spyglass and Hurricane. Spyglass is at little over 300,000 for the 3 sites. Hurricane fencing is at 221, so we'll evaluate them and then we'll have an agenda item at the next board meeting. Kano has 694 feet, Jefferson has 689 feet, Treasure Hills has 1,400 feet. You can see here from the photo at Kano, on the west side, that red line is the privacy fence that would be replacing. All the other is chain link. At Jefferson, it's the entire side by the neighborhood, it'll be from the street all the way back to the other street. And at Treasure Hills, it's, as you come in that driveway, that long driveways and that 2-story wing is from the beginning all the way to the apartments and condos. And then there's a bunch of houses here on this side. It's a whole L shape. So
And that's all 8 feet.
8 feet with slats. So
What is the part of Kano that's not, we're not replacing? Are those 6 feet or 8?
On the west side.
West side?
They're 6-foot privacy fence up against the houses.
But that's the new part that's going in?
That would be the new part.
Actually, to the green right there, that goes over there by your retention pond. We just color coded different
Right
because,
here, green?
yeah,
Piece here?
that's another piece of it. That's about 255 feet. And then on the left, that little green piece, that's where that guy's house roof thing kind of leans over. It's another 78 feet. So it's close to 900 feet overall also, but the red piece is right there where the neighborhood is, and that's where the core of the campus is, where someone could jump the fence and come in.
So you should see something on your market for recording for award if you see this on the agenda. That's what it is.
It's in compliance with the state requirements, but we felt like we needed to go ahead and just make it into a chain link.
It's 8, so that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And this is the first,
In terms of what the state requires, and we've had the safety visits at those campuses, and so they didn't cite the privacy fence as an issue. But since we have chain link everywhere else, we thought we'd be consistent with that.
and this is the first batch. We're gonna follow up with possibly a couple of middle schools and some other schools that Joseph and Danny have talked to us about, depending on the availability of funds. And I think there's a safety grant that we're trying to tap into, right, everything.
Yeah, there's a $777 safety grant that we're trying to use to cover this.
Any chance the state's gonna chip in? We're still waiting for what the legislature's gonna do. Because I've been hearing that they're gonna appropriate quite a bit of money for safety.
Yeah, they're working on that, but obviously the legislative meeting, so they haven't finalized their bills, but there's a couple of bills that are focusing on security, safety students. Hopefully they'll fund.
Do we have any idea what the appropriation might be, or
No, not yet.
not yet?
There isn't a lot of talk, there's a lot of conversation about funding. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that the state will make the decision on what to use it for versus giving us time to determine where we need that. So,
Discretion.
yeah, that's what happened this last appropriation when the state appropriated all those monies. they made a decision on what we could use them for, so we weren't able to use it for fencing and things of that nature that were more appropriate to us. That's the one where they did get the bulletproof vests and all of this other stuff. So I'm hoping that as this new legislative session comes into play, that it's more, we're gonna provide you funding for security, and you determine where you need it best for your school district. So we're still waiting to see what that wants to look like. Otherwise, we're having to follow that.
Okay, we'll move on to Tyler Academy, then page 16. Contract is about 99% complete. They're working on punch lists on the interior, and during spring break, we're hoping this week and next spring break, they're working a lot of the punch list items, and then hopefully after spring break, a week or two after that, we'll be able to move the teachers over to the outside classrooms, so they can start using the new restrooms. We did get finally the new marquee, and it's right there on the left, it's digital, just like the other marquees. On the entry, we finally got the panels in for security, so you have to be card swiped in and approved to get into the enclosure, and then go through a window and get clearance to get into the building. So it's a double screening that you have to go through before you can enter the building, so it's a very safe design entrance. The library in the bottom is being, furniture's come in to equip it with resources and books and all kinds of learning resources. Classroom, that's a finished classroom that are next to the restrooms with the large TV monitor. And the exterior, they're waiting for some of the brick veneer to be finished, and they'll have to level off the site and do a little landscaping there to finish it off. So they're almost done with the outside. And that's the interior restroom with the new tiles, partitions, tiles on the wall, ceiling, and cabinets. Looks very nice, very modern looking. Also at the Early Childhood Academy, we're doing outdoor learning space. We did have bids last time, but they were all way over budget. Our budget's about $650,000. Those bids were well over $1 million, so we rejected it at the last board meeting. We met with the landscape architect, we've met with the administration, and we're gonna be making some changes to the design. On the bottom part of that screen is where the two large basketball courts are, made out of concrete. And so the last one, which would be on the left, the bottom part, red dot, this area, we're going to delete all that from the project. This area is actually still very big. And we're gonna create a garden meadow, just an open Bermuda grass area, so they can have multi-purpose use for picnics, kermesses, hacky sack races, things like that on natural grass. So, school thought that was a very good idea to still utilize it and not very expensive to do that. And if we wanna build things in the future, we can always do that too. So we're hoping that and some other changes in the design will bring it back under budget. So we'll be working on that, and after the spring break, we'll bring you the revised design. The first responders, G&G is also 99% complete. We're working on punch lists. That's, they painted the whole exterior, replaced some panels that were a little bit rusted, painted the name of the building on it. The interior is all finished out, so we've got a couple of classrooms. We have a large warehouse area for the firefighters and their equipment, the restroom, interior finish work.
You've done a lot of this internally, right? With your own people?
No, most of this was, is through G&G Construction. We did do the ceiling tiles and the light fixtures with LED fixtures with a vendor we have on bid with the district, FSG, outside of this contract. So we brought it in at a really good price, so the facility's looking pretty nice. Renovations at the high school, we've awarded the contract to Zewell. We had a pre-construction meeting with the school. We had another meeting with them to go over our security protocols, where all workers will have a badge to identify them. All the different contractors, we're gonna have multiple people on site, and we've worked out a really good system with the school. And they're gonna start putting up security fences and screening off areas during spring break, and so they can have their staging areas be separate from the kids. Memorial Middle School track surface. We got some quotes Coach Davies helped us to get some quotes from Hellas and combine them to redo the track at Memorial. It's in really, really bad shape. It's beyond maintenance. And even when we did repair on it, you can just pick it up at the edges and pick it up and it flops. It's just really, really torn up. We use the old structural spray system that the water goes through it and then goes out. And it's been, I guess, 12 years since the bond program, and that's about as much as it lasted. Those systems don't last, 10 years too much. We have to do heavy maintenance on it. And this is the track we're doing, the D-zone area and the long jump, triple jump. And that's, you can see the condition of the long jump's pretty torn up there, the track, very worn out. Some of that black area, you can almost see the asphalt on the bottom. So, we're gonna be putting an agenda item the next board meeting to replace this track, and hopefully, the price is good. And, we'll add a little contingency in there, because we don't know when they tear out this track, are they gonna pull up some of the asphalt? So I have to repair it, and then until you tear it out, you don't know, so we'll probably just put a contingency fund of about 25,000 to cover any expenses of the asphalt, and if it's not used, we'll just get that money back. Any questions on the track?
What's the life expectancy, about 10 years? I mean, that's about how old.
Tracks like these, 10 to 12 years. Remember, we just resurfaced, Bogus Stadium on the track. That's a different system, that's a monolithic core, 100% solid. And we did the top part, but it was already fading out and it was only 10 years old. So you have to do that kind of maintenance. This one's a different system, this one's kind of hard to do that, where you just have to spend a lot of money in maintenance and patching and try to make it last 15 years. But it's beyond that, so we're just gonna put in, the system we're putting in is similar to what we have at Bogus. So that one should last longer and it'll be easier to maintain and more affordable in the future. Contingency funds at the Coakley Long and Wilson. One of the ductwork, one of the units there, it got moved over about 8 feet, 10 feet over. And so we're having to extend some ductwork and redo the vent pipe. Had some roof deck there that, for 11,000, we have a $70,000 contingency, so we still have 58,900 left. So we're letting you know about this change. And then at Zavala, we have a terrazzo floor, but the restroom that they have there for the staff, stayed tile, and it's that old little ceramic tile with little squares, and it's pretty torn up. So they were going to put new tile. Since we're doing terrazzo, we figured we'll just extend it to the restroom. That way it's all done and we won't have to worry about replacing the tile. Terrazzo lasts 30 years, 40 years. So that's a permanent fix. And that was all, some of the air diffusers they have there are rusted out. So we're gonna put them with the new plastic ones so they don't rust. And, we won't have issues with the health inspectors. That's only $2,300, so we'll say have $12,680. Those are the only two allowances, that we're recording at this time, so if you don't have any questions, then we can move on to financial report.
I just think that's $2,300 for that kind of really a great bargain.
Is it?
I mean, that's a great job on that. Okay, Larry, take us through the
Yes, sir.
financial please.
Yes, sir, thank you. Dr. Yola, board members, committee members, before you have our TRE budget report. You focus on column 5. The first 7 years, we have spent $79,185,785. Third year, 8, we have spent $11,911,000. That's funds both spent and encumbered for this year, the current year. So total for the past 8 years, we have spent and encumbered $90,108,627, which gives us a positive variance of $4.2 million as compared to our $94 million budget for these past 8 years on our TRE projects. These are all locally funded projects for our district. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item. That's gonna be our school safety report. Oscar, you want to be with us?
That's for Joseph.
I'm sorry, Joseph, Dr. Villarreal, will you take us through that one?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Powers, Dr. Muniz, Dr. Noyola, audience members. So at every meeting, we've been bringing forward a school safety update that references things that we're doing throughout the school district when it comes to school safety. And there it is. And so one thing that we're going to be looking at today is the latest and greatest in technology, something called digital mapping, which really when we look at the safety measures here in our school district, we kind of fit them into those components that we've been talking about: infrastructure, mental health, crisis management, communication. But when it comes to digital mapping, what's really interesting about this project is that it fits into both crisis management and it fits into communication. And so it's the latest and greatest in mapping technology that's really gonna benefit our school district when it comes to, God forbid, having to, respond to an emergency. And so I wanna have Mr. Danny Castillo that's gonna go through digital mapping, explain what it is and how it impacts our school district.
Good afternoon, Dr. Neola, board members, committee members, and staff. So I want to go briefly over this presentation. And just like Dr. Villarreal had mentioned, this is one of the things that we are doing here at our district that follows some of those recommended best practices as it relates to preparedness. I mean, a lot of things that happen, everything actually that happens and emanates out of the Office of Emergency Management and School Safety deals with one or all of those various stages of emergency management, starting all the way from prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So when we're talking about the digital mapping and this project that I'm describing to you today, the objectives that we have accomplished with this and is already in progress, most of this has already been achieved, and I want to report back to you on the progress as it stands today. And the objectives that we had in mind with this was to establish and maintain the exterior door numbering site plans for all of our institutional facilities, which would be all of our campuses. This is something that the state has really emphasized as one of the higher priorities when it deals with safety, to make sure that there is a plan like that we can not only distribute here internally for each campus's use, and for them to know how to manage and respond to an emergency, but also our first responder communities, all of our first responder stakeholders. So as a result of the project that we've had, we did hire this firm. It's a relatively new firm. The name of the firm is Hawkeye S3. And the reason I want to mention this particular company and the consultant that we hired, it drew my interest to that one particular company because of the experience that they came to the table with. Mr. Scott Riddick was a consultant that we dealt with and did business with. He is the one that did all our digital mapping for our district. He's a retired U.S. Secret Service agent with over 22 years of experience doing this very thing at the federal level on presidential details and a lot of the field work that they do. So he brought a lot of that expertise over, and now he's doing this type of work. In this case, he did it for our district. So as a result of that, we developed, and I will go into a little bit more detail on the other slides, but as an overview, there's two sets of maps that he created for our district. The first one is basically a very basic map that will be used and will be distributed to all of our campuses for them to use to orientate their staff as they map out their strategies and how do they respond to the various standard response protocol activities and responses. The other set of maps is, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on that on a couple of slides down here, where they will be tactical maps. Those will be shared with our first responder community, specifically the two 911 centers. They will receive the electronic copies of these maps, and they'll be able to be used by these 911 centers, both the Harlingen 911 Center as well as the Cameron County 911 Center, to help our first responders in the event they did need to respond, whether it be fire or police, to any one of our campuses. So here are some of the features that I wanted to touch on as far as the end result that we've achieved with this project. You see on that illustration there on that map, it shows that high altitude image of the campus facility and grounds. So the consultant, they brought their own drones and they wanted to make sure they got updated real-time images of not just the facility itself, but also the surrounding grounds. Critical infrastructure has been labeled on every one of our campuses to include the location of our AEDs, our stop the bleed stations, our utility shutoffs. All of the rooms inside the campuses have been labeled with the room numbers. But another important thing on the rooms, there's common areas, there's certain areas of every campus that have sort of common names that not only the students know, but the faculty know. He also layered the maps to make sure that if it's a gym or if it's a lab, that it's labeled by the commonly recognized name for that room, as well as the actual number room to that room. And then it's also mapped out all of the surveillance camera locations and the direction by which it covers for each one of those cameras, both interior and exterior cameras. The exterior door numbering system, that is another thing that the state is requiring all school districts to begin to implement for the benefit of first responders, as well as our campus's ability to describe in the event of an emergency which specific exterior door are we referencing. So this consultant also went ahead and mapped all of our campuses and sort of rechecked what we had already done as a district. But he went in and labeled all of our exterior doors, and that's also reflected on this mapping system. And the other thing that I think is something that we didn't originally set out as a scope of work for the consultant, but he added this as an intention to help our district and the 911 system, as well as our first responder community. He also overlaid the mapping system with a tactical grid overlay. And I'll show you that in a couple of slides leading up here. This gives you an example of what one of the maps look like. You can see the color-coded reflecting the different purposes of the various rooms, whether it's a common area, a classroom, office, or restroom. It also reflects on the mapping. It zoomed in a little bit more on that same map, and it gives you all the different circled areas. It gives you an idea of how it's going to look on those maps, where it has the legend that shows you whether it be the AEDs. You see the circle towards the bottom left-hand corner where it has the room numbers. The very far bottom left-hand corner gives you an idea of what the icon looks like for the cameras. Let's go up to the next slide here. Also, well, if you go to the farther right-hand edge of that map, you see the red circle. It also has a legend there for some of the utility shutoffs. This gives you another better view when you zoom in on the exterior door numbering system that's reflected on that map. So if any of our first responders were to set up an incident command, they would be able to specifically identify which exterior door they make an entry through, or where would the emergency be at that they would need to reference. They could all be speaking the same language and referencing the same point on this shared mapping system. You'll see also on the map the different grid points. If you look up on the upper edge of the map, gives you an idea of what the grid labeling looks like, where you see G1, H1, L1. That's a very important thing from a tactical standpoint, so that whether, again, it's fire department or police, if there's an incident on any of those campuses, they can all direct their attention to the specific location, not only within the building, but on the grounds of that campus.
Danny, is this something that we teach everybody about, this grid system? Or do they automatically, I know it's not automatic, so are they trained like that already? Or how do we communicate that so that everybody's on top of that?
Right, so I have already made this presentation to our law enforcement partners. I meet with them every month. So it was last week that I met with them and introduced the finished product. We just got this delivered to us a little bit over a week and a half ago. So I have met with them. They do understand this system. That's some of the things that our SWAT teams, both at the city and the county, train under. The good thing is for us, I really like this because this truly is cutting edge, especially for down here. I want to point out some other features on the next slide that truly is one of the firsts that we're exploring, working with the consultant to get it into a working feature of the mapping system and the integration with the 911 system. But yes, this is something that this has already been delivered over to our Harlingen 911, to the Harlingen Police Department, and they're going to incorporate this into how they train their SWAT team. and how they utilize this for doing their exercises where they set up their command posts.
On Thursday, I'm gonna be asking all of our luncheon partners to meet here at H1. They don't know what I'm talking about.
So this takes me to that, this is the one thing that I'm really excited about. In speaking with the consultant, this feature that he also worked into the working model of this is something that currently is not in place anywhere that we know of. So for the lack of, I'll use my one big word for the day, which is geospatial data. He embedded that into the pixels of the mapping system. And after I Googled that to find out exactly what that means, and so I can sound smarter, it basically is technology that he embedded into the mapping system. Most of our 911 systems use Google Earth. So marrying his mapping system with the Google Earth mapping that 911 already has in place, he's embedded those that technology into his maps, so that the end result is, and this is still something that we're going to be testing, would be that when somebody was or does call 911 from, let's say, this is a campus, that geospatial data will enable them to track specifically what room number, what location within the building that individual is calling 911 from. So he has made himself available. He will be working with both our Harlingen 911 Center as well as Cameron County to help them through that technical integration. So they'll understand how to reach into that geospatial data that he's embedded into the mapping system.
Danny, is our command center here gonna be part of that notification? In other words, if 911 gets a call, do we also get it simultaneously as our?
Some of that, yes, not directly right now, but our command center, the plan will be that some of the stuff that we're working on for the IP phone-based alert system, that will enable us to sort of marry and bridge and integrate a lot of these different functions of notification. But for right now, what we're focusing in on is to make sure that our 911 systems have that mapping, and if they're able to overlay this mapping system into their 911 Google Earth mapping, then that's like a huge quantum leap of efficiency for 911 as well as our first responders, because they'll be able to be very specific and identify where some of these calls are coming from as it relates to any of our campuses.
Danny, so I'm just thinking bigger than just HIC. This will be able, this information technology is going to be utilized throughout Cameron County potentially at some point in time. Is that correct? Am I thinking too big?
Well, what I'm hoping, and what the consultant is hoping, is that 911 centers will begin to integrate this, because the technology is out there. They use that in the commercial sector, but now he's leveraging that, and he saw the value of putting that into some of these features for what he's doing with us. So, I mean, there's a tremendous potential. That geospatial technology, he says if they have that already in the 911 system, when we go to and utilize other platforms, like the IP-based notification alert system, because it's integrated, there's high probability that we'll be able to interface all of these things, so that when an alert is activated in the IP phone system, and we activate one of the 5 protocols at any campus, it should be able to track it back to a specific IP phone and map that out on the map for that campus, that it came from the principal's office or the counselors.
I understand that. I guess what I'm asking, maybe a different way, 'cause I'm not 100% how this works either, but I know that when there's integrations from other companies, for example, if I'm using Google, I use Google Maps a lot, other companies will overlay stuff on there, and I get it for free, but I know somebody else paid for it somewhere.
Yeah.
So is this gonna be accessible to the public?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yes, this, And that's a good question, but this, both of our maps, whether it be the basic or this tactical map, is not to be shared with the general public. It will be provided to our campuses so they can utilize, but it's not something we would put, let's say, on our website. This is something that, because of the safety considerations for that, where it maps out basically locations of critical infrastructure, safety infrastructure, that is not something we'll share with the general public.
So then would there be the potential, and maybe this is a question for him, if I have the Google Maps app and I'm within a group that's allowed, I can go to the filtering in my map, my app system and put that filter on there?
And you just like,
Well,
I
Danny
don't
did
know.
something really good that when he first got this, he actually called up the 911 center, which is located right here by Lowe's, and they were the ones who told him about this Google Earth that had synced them. Only PSAPs, which is Public Safety Answering Points, have access to this, and there's only 13 of them. 13, right, Danny? 13 in the
I
county?
have no idea.
Yeah, the dispatch centers are only 13. If the county goes to a centralized dispatch center, which we're hoping to do in the near future, then it'll only be one center that has it. Nobody else has access to this. So from that center, they can send it to the police officer on their laptop and pop up the map and be able to show that.
Okay.
But it is not for the general public to
Right,
get.
well, I guess like if you were using it, right, and then you had access to that filter, you could put it on there and you could see it on live.
Only law enforcement and fire departments who have access from the PSAPs have availability to do that. Nobody else does.
But I think what you're referring to is if a business sends you a link of their map that you can overlay into your Google
Mhm.
Earth, you could see it because somebody sent you the link.
Right.
But this will
This
only
one,
be
no.
centered to our law enforcement providers. It's not gonna be released anywhere outside, so nobody will be able to have access to it.
Makes sense.
Convert this to.
So in essence, we would basically serve as that beta site for this level of technology. My hope is that it works. He's very confident that it will. So it's a work in progress, but I think we could truly be that template, not only for this region, but for the state, on leveraging this technology. So I'll certainly report back, hopefully with really good news once we're able to get that done.
In multiple ways, I think this will help. One is in an emergency, but also those prank calls and all of that craziness that happens, we'll be able to map out where is that call coming from. Right? And so I think that's a great piece as well, both as a prevention and as a response measure.
That's it. Any questions?
Terrific. I mean, it's really cutting edge, as you say. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, this may be something I missed, but when will you know if the 911 system will be able to integrate all this?
As I said earlier, I shared the maps just, was it today, right? Just this morning, we shared it with Harlingen PD, who will be coordinating that with the Harlingen 911 Center. I need to follow up with them and get some feedback on how quickly they can get with a consultant, work through the technical integration question. But I don't have the answer for that right now. I'm hoping it's really soon.
The bottom line, this is speed. It's all about speed to recover, speed to react, speed to, so we can communicate with speed. And I think, I mean, it looks awesome.
And you know the precise location that's
Are you
involved.
gonna test it out, like once it's done, like just to see like how well it works?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure that's gonna be part of the implementation phase to test it out.
And it gives the ability for anybody responding that has access to 911, which could be Brownsville, they can log in and they can get this information as they're coming in and they'll know what sector to be at.
Remember Thursday, H1 barbecue?
So they'll have the map, so when they get it, they'll know
They'll
which
know.
door, correct? Which
And
part.
dispatch will guide them and then they'll just look it up in the map.
I'm hungry, Danny, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Y'all are making great strides. I mean, I'm just so excited about this program and all the other things that we're doing to provide safety for our kids. Oscar, good job, everything you did too. You're saving us a lot of money, it looks like.
sorry, just a quick question, just going back to this, is it only gonna be the 911 dispatching?
It's gonna be Tesla cars.
Yeah, is it gonna only be them sort of, telling all the folks that are basically working, there's an issue there or whatever? Cause that's not good enough, right? I mean, we already have more people that have worked in our district that we know, we have their cell phones, we have whatever, why can't we get the message out to even the folks that are off duty, that are whatever? You know what I mean? We talked about this before, about
Right.
only 1/3 of your police forces are on duty. It's less than that, it's like 30%. 70% are either off, vacation, they're at home. It could be right across the street. That's a federal officer with a gun that could respond if there's a big event, if there's a shooting event, or active shooter, whatever, right? So why can't we put this on steroids by saying, well, we're gonna do one better, Harlingen. We're gonna not only notify, we'll let you notify whoever you wanna notify, we're gonna notify everyone we've trained these police officers. They've come here, they're familiar with our school district. We're gonna message them, we have an event at this school right now, because I guarantee you, that off-duty police officer gets that message, they're coming. And they'll put a vest on, they'll know that they know how to, they'll know what channel to dial on, they know you, they know all the people, they'll know who to report, they know who's gonna be on charge on the scene. Does that make any sense? So
It does.
why don't we get all hands on deck? Because I think that would be the smartest thing to do, because we know how to coordinate and how to do it. It's not gonna be this, mess like the law there was, because we know how to sort of, the communication, we've trained and we've kind of, that's gonna make sense.
Yeah, and that's something that, it's always been the age-old question for every community. It's sort of like going back to the unfortunate events that occurred at Uvalde, where you had over 300 law enforcement officers that swarmed the campus, but yet there was no incident command.
Right.
So the real question is how to organize and manage that on scene. This right here is really more about the framework of information that our 911 system will manage, be able to communicate directly with incident command at a scene. So the number of law enforcement partners that respond to an incident, that's gonna happen in every community. But part of the things that we wanna train moving forward, one of the reasons why I continue to try to meet with all of our law enforcement partners every month is to try to facilitate, because I'm not their trainer, I think the role that we can play as a district is facilitate the partnerships. And I think we've made some great strides on that. Whether it's Harlingen PD or Cameron County Sheriff's Department, the incident command on the incident, depending on how big in scope that incident takes place, any responding law enforcement professional would need to report to the incident command, and then they get direction from them. So I think it's really.
So are we ready for that? I mean, is that incident command, is it just not there yet to where you could only handle what you've got active duty from the people that are here right now, and then you're not ready for all that? Or, I mean, what do we need to do to get, because I think
No.
you're onto the right thing. I mean, I just think that we need to figure out, to your point, right, Danny, you said it earlier, they're gonna come anyway, because they're gonna get the word's gonna be out, they're gonna get the word. I would just rather maximize the number of our own that are getting here, because you've already got access to some of these people that that they know how our incident command works, they know how our school system, they know they know the people, they know the different agencies. So they would know how to, basically, what their role would be or who to report to, just like you said. So I would want to maximize the number of our own that would be responding to any type of an event like that. But maybe is the command system not quite where we need it to be yet, or what do you think?
Well, it's not that it's not where we need it to be. I think it is where it needs to be, but I think there's a continual expansion of that circle, but we have to responsibly grow that. I think where we have been working right now with Harlingen PD, with Cameron County, the constables precincts. Now we have DPS that has always been a partner of ours, but now they're actually meeting with us. We had that exercise prior to the beginning of the school year. Those types of activities, those joint exercises, that's where we build that unified command, that structured response that helps mitigate some of the confusion. Because one of the recurring things that occurs, the mistakes that have been occurring nationally, the case studies always show that one big breakdown initially is always communication. Where there's a lot of desire to come in and help, but when you have all these different agencies converging on a scene, it could create even more confusion than actual help. So, going back to the question, it's not as simple to say that, well, we have all these first responders, why don't we just call them? This is where I defer back to our law enforcement professionals, where we help facilitate, like we have already, opportunities for them to train on our campuses. We're doing that more frequently now. Both to Cameron County, Harlingen PD, DPS, they've already begun to use our venues, our facilities to begin to actually do practical active shooter trainings and so forth. So all of those building blocks is really where we will continue to incrementally improve and expand that force multiplier that you're basically describing. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. You're doing a great job already. I mean, where we've already, the integration and the coordination of the different multiple agencies we've already done is pretty impressive. I mean, I haven't heard anything like this out there. I think, folks will copy it, which is great. I mean, I think it's a great, coordination of multiple different agencies. And I think hopefully you'll have UTRGV, I know your communication with them. That's another police, force that, I mean, they have a campus in our district, right? I mean, so.
Yeah.
I think there's a great opportunity with UTRGV, the UT system, and I think you're in communication with them already. As far as I know, I'm just a boot doctor, what do I know? But I've done some research on this. I can't think of another better active shooter training system in the United States than UT system active shooter training. I mean, they did some pretty incredible good training. So I think let's use them as a resource. They want to help. They're on our campus already. Again, if we can make this the model sort of way to secure, to keep a school district secured, I mean, let's do it.
Well, the alert system is what we all train on, which is the standard. So we do the state standard for training for all first responders, and for supervisory staff, we do the FEMA incident command training, several levels, right? So, and that was what happened when there was a breakdown in the command. Nobody knew who was in charge, but we developed a method. The last times we met, we had the exercise where we were all pre-med and Combs and us and BTS, utilizing the regional channel, stuff like that. So what you're saying is to have everybody come out. We're gonna have everybody that's on duty gonna come out because it's gonna go on regional. Anytime there's an incident like this, they're gonna broadcast on our regional. So we're gonna have people from the Howell County, Sheriff's Office, we're gonna have Border Patrol, we're gonna have marshals. But if you have too many people and nobody knows who's in charge, which is what happened in Rwanda. Even if there is somebody in charge, you start flooding that incident command with too many people. There's too many moving parts. So there's three levels to it. You've got the 911, which is the initial response, right? Then you have your incident command, and you have your execution, which is the actual officers on the scene. But when you start flooding the incident command, then you have too many players on the table. So the way we've been doing it is actually working, and meeting with we're more interactive now than we've ever been with our surrounding agencies, like Cleveland and Combs, Sheriff's Office, and Constables, Emergency Management. Luckily Tom was with us, so he knows most of us. So we are working. This program is really, really awesome. And when we saw it, we all understood how the grid works. And it's good for on our side because we can actually tell where the command center is going to be. Inside command is going to be, in this grid, and when first responders come from somewhere else, they'll understand when we share the maps with them, and then we'll also have the maps in the, the actual officers will have a map or wherever they're going to keep a hard copy. And that's what we're trying to develop. We're trying to get blueprints for all the schools before we started this, so I could train the officers like, hey, these are the maps of the schools. Do a walkthrough to the schools, get to know the schools during the summer, because we have a lot of guys from Brownsville. Like most of our PDs from Brownsville. So they're not. I'm from Harlingen, so I know like 3 schools, right? Because I grew up one side of town. But a lot of these officers never set foot in the school, so something like this will work. But yeah, we've already been developing that.
And there was also this idea, I don't know if you ever looked into that or not, but the whole concept of using our buses if there is ever, God forbid, an active shooter situation, using our buses as a barrier, because you get all these families and everybody, and it becomes just chaos. Forget just the number of different officers responding, it becomes chaotic. but using the busters and our, to tell everyone, hey, I'm sorry, this, the whole place is secure, and then only letting in the police force and the people that should be there. But that should be something I think we should look into, because those buses can be a lifesaver, can be a barrier, because otherwise it gets too chaotic in those
Yeah.
campuses.
But yeah, definitely, Dr. Bettis, and I think our strength is always gonna be in partnerships. I'm always looking for expanding that. I have already had a good lengthy conversation with Commander Trevino from the UT system. And I'm pending to hear back from him, but he may actually be attending our next monthly meeting. I wanted him to meet all of the local law enforcement professionals and start identifying and exploring how can we partner with them and benefit not just HCIT, but this whole region's law enforcement community. So he's really excited about that partnership and what we're working on.
So Dan, you're working on creating that channel of communication amongst all of our law enforcement partners. Because to your point, Doc, how does it go from the 911 to everybody that we partner with? And so Dan and the county are working on how do we create one channel that meets the needs of our district, and where it connects all of our partners together, so that in that incident, that call goes out and all of our partners are aware, and they can respond even before the masses can show up.
Thank you.
Thank you all, thank everyone for coming today. We really appreciate your input. We're making great strides. Thanks for all your hard work. If there's not, anybody have any further questions? If there's nothing further, we stand adjourned. Thank you.